Hello everyone, welcome to this session of GS2 Polity Answer Writing. We have already dealt with GS1 answer writing in three parts, that is history, geography and society. This is the first part of GS2 answer writing. In the next session, we'll deal with IR answer writing. By now, I don't think I need to introduce myself, but then I am Mudit Jain. I am author of Decode Ethics book. I am also the author of Decode History book that I hope would be released by the time you are watching this video. You can download my notes and answer copies from my blog, that is muditjainblog.wordpress.com. You can visit my Telegram channel and be uh, with 10,000 other members who take free interactive guidance from me on daily basis. And you can join my YouTube channel, that is Muditjan UPSC, for further exam related strategies. This, as I showed you in previous sessions, is something about my book. Ethics book is doing quite well, and I hope that history book would also do well. One added uh, reason for that is that I have associated this book with a social cause which I am very close to, because I always wanted to do something for the forces. So some of the proceeds from this book will go to Bharat Ke Veer Fund. So this is again regarding book. Let us start with the session. That is, so to begin with, let me tell you something in brief about GS2 polity. So polity paper as such can be divided into polity hardcore, that is Lakshmikant based static questions, or governance section of GS2, or the schemes and policies section. So as you can see on the screen, this section, that is polity, is mix of static as well as current. So even if a question is asked from current, you have to write provisions of static, and likewise, even if a static question is asked, for example, provisions of emergency, then you have to mention about current background. Either way, uh, questions and answers of polity are mix of static and current. I have not come across many questions from two static topics. So always there is a tinge of current attached with the static question. Second part is governance. Again, it has static and current mixed type of questions. Schemes and policies are of course current based. And lastly, there are reports. So as I have told you previously in GS1 and answer writing sessions, that we need to quote reports. So ARC is a very important report. As we proceed in the sessions, I'll tell you how to use ARC even without reading it. I never read ARC, but I use them massively. Secondly, you have to write court cases. You have to write names of committees, their reports. You can quote SDGs, and whatever other reports you deem fit to be written in GS2 answers, you can write them. Sources. So I don't think I have told you about sources in previous videos, but then GS2 is a very vast subject. So first, let me give you a clear picture regarding sources. So you can see for current, I have mentioned Hindu newspaper, Vision monthly magazines, the PDFs of which are available online for free. Hindu you can read online for free, and Inside Secure compilations that also are available online for free. So my sources of current were free of cost. I didn't spend a penny on my current affairs preparation. Uh, I feel really confused when on my Telegram group people keep asking me about news analysis, paid current programs, and all. I am not in favor of that. Current affairs is something that nobody can teach you. How can somebody teach you what is happening in news? You just have to read newspaper and you have to make notes and revise on your own. So do not go for ready-made spoon feeding. I am not in favor of that. Uh, be your own man, be your own woman, and read newspaper, make notes, read Vision Monthly magazine, make notes. So for static, I referred Lakshmikant. I think this book is more than enough. When I was preparing, I referred third edition of same, which had around 400 pages. I reduced them into 96 pages notes, which unfortunately I have lost. So these notes are not available on my blog. This was my most prized possession, but I lost them. So I don't know how you can read the latest edition, which has about 1,000 pages. I don't know if it is worth it or not. Uh, how can someone read 1,000 pages? How can someone make notes out of it? It is a very tough task. So if you guys have any other alternate source to refer for polity, do go for it. I won't force you to read 1,000 pages. Else, what you can do, you can refer the older edition of Lakshmikant if it is still available. Because I don't think there may be enough changes. 90% or 95% of our polity is still the same. There are changes here and there, but then you can read previous edition as well. Third sort of questions that can be asked are from static linked with current. So these are the topics mainly of governance portion, like poverty, hunger, education, RPA, roles of civil service in democracy, etc. So for these topics, you need to have a 2-3 page note for each topic, like say 2-3 pages for transparency, 2-3 pages for governance, 2-3 pages for RPA, 2-3 pages for NGO, likewise. Now what aspects to cover? Aspects are what, example, what is transparency, why transparency, how transparency, positives of it, negatives if any, problems in ensuring transparency, what are the solutions that are already implemented to ensure transparency, government, what the measures government has taken, and also you can cover steps that you recommend to ensure transparency. Likewise, if you are trying to cover poverty, then what is poverty, why poverty, how it is measured. I don't think there is any pros in poverty. What are the negatives of poverty, problems associated with it, the solutions, government measures, steps, etc. Now, why is it needed? At times it happens that there is a completely current based question which you have not read. For example, just for example, say you haven't read MPI, multidimensional poverty index. Just for sake of it, consider this. So if you have not read MPI and there is entire 5 line question on poverty which you have to answer on basis of MPI, and you don't know what is MPI, what are its parameters, what are the factors, etc. Still, if you have these 2-3 pages notes regarding what, why, how, pros, cons, solutions, etc., then you can write whatever you know in this question. Now, how would it fit? MPI is multidimensional poverty index. So it would have uh, only those factors which are generic, which are related to poverty, like health, education, etc. So this is what you would already have in your notes. What I'm trying to say is that even the most current based question, it won't be asked from out of the universe. So it will be basically from what you already know. So make static notes. These act as fodder material. These help you in totally current oriented questions which you know nothing about. For example, in 2017, there was question on wash scheme. I had not read this. Uh, this was not there in my notes at all. But then still I was able to write a lot about it and fill even the last inch of page available for this question, only and only because I had enough fodder material to write on it. And lastly, PRS blog. Be careful, it is not PRS website, it is PRS blog. So PRS blogs has various articles like on poverty, on special status for states, etc. I found those articles really helpful. So I'll advise you to go through some of the articles. I'm not sure about its quality now, but then it was really helpful for me back then. Now let me scare you a little. So GS2 is a very troublesome paper. Now, why I say so? Because it is very tricky to score in GS2. You would have heard about 125 plus marks in GS1, in GS3. You would have heard about 145 etc. marks in 2017. In 2016, you would have heard about 150 plus scores in ethics, but you would have hardly heard about 125, 130 plus average score in GS2. Average score in GS2 is less, according to me, every year. So it is tricky to score in GS2. Secondly, it is a very vast subject in itself because it is mostly current based, and at times, very often now, I should say, rather than at times, questions are asked from current that are older than 1 year. So gone are those days when 12 months of current affairs used to be enough. Now you have to study 15 to 18 months of current affairs. You can refer previous year question papers. You will easily find questions that are older than 1 year of news. At the same time, there are cliche questions as well that belong to same year. Like last year, privacy was a lot in news and still it was asked. So cliche questions are asked as well as static questions are asked, as I already told you. So it is a very varied subject in itself and it is very difficult to score. So that is a trouble, huge trouble. But then every lock has a key. So Polity GS2 answer writing is no different. What are the keys to success in GS2 answer writing? So first you have to read current affairs. The sources I've already told you. You have to read static. I've told you the source. You have to make notes out of them. There is no shortcuts. Please don't take shortcuts. You have to make notes, own notes, and you have to revise them multiple times. I used to revise my course material 5 to 6 times. I'm asking you to revise only 4 to 5 times. So you have to revise them. What happens when you revise your course so many times is that everything is on your fingertips. You do not have to think much during exam. You will be able to simply reproduce the points that you have in your notes in your answer copy, and this will definitely ensure quality and quantity in points. So all these factors add to a good score in GS. That is why follow this process. Do not take shortcuts. Newspaper is must, and apart from above, you have to practice GS2 answer writing. I did not say same for GS1 sessions. I did not emphasize on practicing as such for GS1. I asked you to train your mind to draw diagrams, to write keywords. But then for GS2, just mind training won't work. You have to practice because it requires certain level of specialization. Now let us get to my answer writing strategy. This is common from the previous session itself, so I won't repeat it here. Those of you who haven't watched previous sessions, please do watch because there are quite a few repetitions which I'll take very lightly in these sessions because I'm assuming that you have watched my previous sessions of GS1 history, GS1 geography and GS1 society. Please watch these sessions in this order only. Address each part I've already told you in previous sessions. Addressing statement I've told you, but then I'll emphasize on it a little because in GS2, uh, almost 90% of questions you will find that have statement. and then there is a question which is not linked with the statement. So first three lines are statement, fourth line and fifth line mentions two parts of question which are not much linked with it, but then this is the statement and you have to address it. You cannot skip it. If UPSC has written three or four lines in question paper, it definitely wants you to address them. Otherwise, there was no need to write these lines as such. They could have simply asked you this question: what is the need of writing three, four lines and wasting so much of ink? So, if they are doing something, they are doing it for a reason. So, you have to address this statement. Then coming to introduction, you have to define the keywords as I've already told you before. You have to write news background. This is also told before. Uh, you have to write facts. I've told you this as well. Reports, I've told you, but let me emphasize on it. You have to definitely write reports. You have to write paper specific keywords like DPSPs, FR, fundamental duties, preamble, articles, court cases, committee's name, other reports. So I'll deal with it in the next slides as well. But then in introduction, apart from defining keywords, mentioning news background, mentioning facts, you have to write keywords. The sooner in answer you write keyword, the better, because what happens that we have to answer these questions in very strict time limit. Under pressure, we tend to forget to mention keywords. So train your mind, practice as such that you are mentioning keywords, these keywords that I have mentioned here, in the introduction itself, because that is the stage of question where you are your mind is still working. By the time you reach half question, by the time you have attempted half of the question, it happens with 90% of people that only hands are working and mind is numb. So uh, give yourself best opportunity to catch examiner's eye and mention keywords in the introduction itself. Make headings, I have already told in previous session. Write in points. Now you will encounter many people who will say that GS2 is para based answer writing, but then I've already told you the reason of writing in points and not in para in the previous sessions. So you have to write in points, and ideally the number of points is equal to the number of marks of a question. Paper specific keywords, as I told you in the previous slide, you have to mention these keywords in every answer. At least 4 to 5 keywords per answer is a must. Still, one caution: do not overdo. When you overdo, it appears mechanical. It will clearly tell the examiner that all you are trying to do is write keywords which often do not make sense. So write keywords but maintain a fine balance. So you have to write keywords from ARC, Supreme Court cases, committees names, reports, preamble, constitution articles, DPSPs, and fundamental rights, fundamental duties, etc. Now, let me tell you how to. First, let me tell you about these three things, that is, cases, committees, and reports. Case, committee, and reports. These three things are only current based. There is no need to worry about historical cases, historical committees, and reports too much, because that you will automatically cover in Lakshmikant. So do not buy books which lure you into reading thousands of cases. I am aware, I have seen a book that is available which deals only and only with Supreme Court cases and all for polity answer writing. Trust me, it has no use. It can only act as a paperweight. It has no use to your answer writing. because you won't be able to read that book. First of all, even if you manage to read it, you won't be able to revise it. If you don't revise, everything is a waste. So for historical cases, just make a list from Lakshmikant. And for recent cases, like privacy question was asked in 2017, so if I remember, it was Puttu Swami case. So mention that case in that question, and make notes from current affairs. Similarly, for committees and other reports. So this is a current based topic. But then these topics, like these keywords like preamble, FR, FD, articles, DPSP, etc., these are static, and a simple 2-3 page note can be prepared from Lakshmikant. I'll deal with this in the next slide. Now let me get to the how to use ARC. As I told you in the beginning of session that I used ARC massively, but trust me, you have to trust me on this, you have to believe me that I never read even a single page of ARC apart from its index. So I don't even know the number of pages that ARC has, but I assume it will be at least 500 pages. Again, if you are reading 500 pages and making notes, it will be a tough task. If you don't make notes, reading 500 pages and then revising them becomes a tough task. So it is a vicious circle. Uh, Better use my approach. What I did was I read only the index of ARC. Once you read index, you will become aware of what all topics, what all areas ARC has dealt with. For example, it has written something on ethics because ethics is mentioned in its index. It has written something on terrorism. It has told something on local self government. It has told something on governance. So now you are, after reading the index, you are very well aware that ARC has said something or other on these topics. So now tell yourself, what would ARC have written in such reports? Basically, what are the problems, what are the issues, what are the challenges, what are the solutions? All these things ARC would have written. Now you are very well aware of problems, issues, challenges and solutions regarding governance, regarding terrorism, regarding ethics. So your knowledge about these things, you can use them in your answers, and in front of that just write as per ARC, because ARC wouldn't have quoted something out of the universe. ARC is also drafted by human beings only. So you can say that these reports are generic in nature. So you can bluff, just ensure that you read index so that you do not write as per ARC in front of a topic on which ARC has not discussed itself. So follow this strategy. Apart from this, I made 3-page summary of ARC, and that is uploaded on my blog, that is muditjanblog.wordpress.com. You can download that summary from there. Now, as I told you in previous slide that I'll be telling you 2-3 page that you have to make 2-3 pages notes. So these are the 2-page notes that I made for DPSP, DPSP, and fundamental duties, then fundamental rights, preamble, and ARC. All that these pages have are keywords. Like part 4. Part 4 I have mentioned in front in the first line. Part 4 becomes a keyword. When you are writing something regarding DPSP, write part 4 of Constitution deals with DPSP. This shows the technical knowledge that you have. Only this passing reference will definitely catch the eye of examiner and help you gain +1 extra mark. Similarly, here I have written fundamental to governance. I have written Austin called it conscience of constitution, welfare state, socio-economic political program. I've mentioned socialist, Gandhian, liberal. So all these keywords like friend, philosopher, guide. So these keywords you can use it in your answer. All you need is to train your mind and practice that. As soon as you see a question of polity, you will write keywords, and you will try to write keywords in the introduction itself. We will write keywords in points also in the answer body, but then sooner the better. Similarly, use fundamental duties, fundamental rights, preamble. It has a number of keywords like socialist, secular, democratic, republic. Liberty has keywords, equality, socio-economic, political equality. So you can use these keywords. And ARC, I made a list of these 10 or 11 keywords like principle of subsidiarity, citizen-centric government, seven-step model, participative governance, voice to local bodies, etc. And these we'll discuss sample questions of mine. You will find usage of these keywords in those answers. Diagram I've already told in GS1 session as well. I'll just rush through this video. You can draw hub and spoke diagram. You can draw difference between diagram in GS2 polity. You can draw a flowchart kind of diagram, and you can draw some question specific diagrams like PubEd students draw this diagram a lot in transparency question, transparency, accountability, and responsiveness, and then in center they mention good governance. So this sort of diagram, question specific diagrams, you can draw. Conclusion, as I've told in previous sessions, you cannot skip conclusion. If you skip, you stand to lose at least 1 or 2 marks. So there are two approaches to conclusion in GS2. Either you can just summarize as we did in GS1, or you can follow way forward approach, because many a times it happens that questions in GS2 are asked where you have to tell the problems related to some issue. So when you have told the problems in the answer body, as conclusion you can give solutions. So here solution becomes a way forward approach. That suppose a question is asked on poverty, what are the issues related to poverty? You have listed 7 or 10 issues of poverty, and then in conclusion write what you think is the most holistic steps to alleviate poverty. So that becomes a way forward approach. Now let us discuss 6 questions. In the previous sessions we discussed only 4 questions. Here we'll discuss 4 questions plus 2 sample answers that I wrote. So first question is from governance topic. Question is, though India has reduced poverty, as we read, we underline keywords, we try to identify subparts as we did in previous session. So here first keyword is poverty. Though India has reduced poverty as per multi-dimensional poverty index, it is second keyword. 1/6 of population still suffers from hunger. This is third keyword. What is the link between hunger and poverty? This is the question. How far can education tackle both? This is another question. Discuss in light of SDGs. So whatever you discuss in these 2 questions, you have to discuss in light of SDG. Now it is a 250 words question, 15 marker question. Uh, do not forward the video. I'm taking a 5-second pause because I'm giving you the opportunity to identify the number of subparts in this question. So take 5 seconds, reread the question, take 10 seconds and try to identify the number of subparts in this question. So if you have identified 2 subparts, you are wrong. So as I told you previously, the statement given in question becomes a part. You have to address the statement. It is very important. So this question, the first 3 lines, three and a half lines, there is a statement. Now, what I told you previously in this video, UPSC could have directly asked this: what is the link between hunger and poverty? What was the need to write these three lines and build such a base? It is only and only to provoke you to write about this statement. When they have wasted so much ink in so much of mains answer booklets, they want you to write on it. So do not skip the statement. It is the first part of question. Second part is what is the link. Third part is how can education tackle both. So there are three subparts of this question. It is a 15 marker question. We have to write 15 points. Three subparts means every part will have 5 points, every subpart. So let us see the structure. Read the question, break the question, address each part. Question has three parts: statement, link, education. 15 marker, three parts, 3 marks, 5 points each. Intro. So as I told you in the slide of introduction that we will define the keywords. The keywords that we marked are poverty, hunger and MPI. So you can either define poverty, you can either define MPI, or you can define hunger. It is as per you. Uh, I think defining MPI would suit the best in this particular question. So because if you define MPI, you give yourself opportunity to write about parameters of MPI. So if you write parameters of MPI, then only you can say that perhaps it is the case that poverty has reduced because of the parameters of MPI. The sheer numbers have reduced because of parameters of MPI, but then uh, poverty as such has not ended. So you have to be smart about what you pick to define, because also you have to remember that not only have to define, you can mention facts as well. So if you remember both things, then you would choose MPI in your introduction. So this will also take care of the statement part, that according to MPI, poverty has reduced, but still 1/6 of population suffers from hunger. You can quote name of reports like Hangama report or Rangarajan report. Even if you have read economy Sri Ram notes twice, you would know these terms. So, second part is link between poverty and hunger. You have to write 5 points on it. Remember to write keywords like subsistence, farming, etc. Then you have to write 5 points on this part, and both these parts must have references of SDGs. So there are 17 SDGs. I would advise you to mug up the SDGs number wise. Like first, perhaps I don't remember now, it is poverty. Second is hunger, then education. So you have to remember in series. So even a passing reference, when you talk about poverty, even a passing reference that SDG 1 deals with poverty, SDG 2 deals with hunger, this will serve the purpose of this question, because you have to discuss in light of SDGs. Not more is required, you just have to discuss in light of SDGs. So just mention the SDGs as you talk about education, hunger and poverty. I've told you to include facts. I've told you to include reports like Rangarajan, Hangama, etc. Also, even if you skipped these reports in Sri Ram book, or I don't know if it is now available at all in that notes or not, you don't have to read them. As I already told you in ARC, you don't have to read reports, you just have to use. So even if you have slightest of idea that there is a particular report named Hangama which talks about hunger, even if you don't know what it talks, just write what you know and then say as per Hangama report. So examiner wants to see the name, not what you mention after that. Trust me, this is true. All they want is to see that you have written ARC. What you write after that or before that does not matter. This is the keyword that they are looking for. Similarly, in GS3, I'll tell you about usage of budget, economic survey, etc. Diagram. Now, very simple. If you have written, say, if you had to write 5 links between hunger and poverty, and if fortunately you know, say, 10 links and you have written 5, then uh, other you can write this way: links 1 2 3 4 5 spokes. So hub and spoke diagram, it is very common in GS2. I think at the end of the day you will be able to draw only hub and spoke, because it is very common. It can be drawn in each and every question of GS2. And lastly, conclude in 1 or 2 lines, summary approach or way forward approach, as I already told you. Coming to the next question. So it is a polity static question. The previous question was current based governance question. This is static question. So what it says: what role does governor of a state assume leading up to and during state emergency? Explain constitutional provisions that empower governor and center to bring ordinances during state emergency. It is a completely static question. Still, if you have anything in news of late which you can link with this question, then write news background. 200 words, 12.5 marks. That means you have to write 12 points. Again, I am taking a small pause. Please do not forward the video to see the subparts. Do not cheat with yourself. You won't gain anything out of the session if you do so. Just take a pause of 5-10 seconds and try to identify the number of subparts in this question. So I hope at least some of you would have been able to identify 4 subparts in this question. Now, how come 4? The first part is what role governor assumes leading up to the emergency. Second is during the emergency. Third is constitutional provisions for governor. And fourth is constitutional provisions for center. So in all, there are 4 parts. You have to understand the art, you have to learn the art of breaking the question into subparts. Because see, if you had identified this as one part and this as second part, then you had only 2 parts. You would have to then write 6 points in each part, and then our knowledge often is not that much that we can write 6 quality points for a topic, but then we can certainly write 3 quality points for a topic, because if you identify 4 subparts, 4 into 3, 12 points you have to write. 3 points, 3 good points everybody can write. So this is the magic, this is the power of identification of more subparts. The more subparts you recognize in a question, the more dimensions you will cover, the more points you will be able to write. It will become easy. You won't have to think much while writing the answer. You won't waste time. You would be able to finish the question in its entirety in the given time. So learn the art of breaking the question into subparts. Apart from this, governor is the keyword of the question. So we have identified the keyword. Now, can you define governor? I think you can if you know the article as such. But then I also told you that in intro you can write facts, you can write articles. So whatever articles you remember related to governor, write them. Whatever articles related to emergency you know, write them. Whatever other facts you know related to governor and emergency, write them. So show your technical knowledge to the examiner in the introduction itself. This will form the introduction. Now let us see the structure. Read, break, address parts. 4 parts I have told you, 3 points each. Now, introduction, I have already told you that if you can recognize any news background of this question, then do mention it. Uh, Otherwise, you can write articles for governor, emergency, and ordinances as told you in the previous slide itself. uh, you have to make four headings, 3 points each. Now, I am sure if you have read polity, you would know court cases related to ordinances, you would know court cases related to emergency. So, as I told you in the beginning, that historical cases of importance can be picked from your static source like Lakshmikant itself. There is no need to wander beyond that. So it is a static question. You can simply pick cases. Now the key is that you should know them. You cannot bluff cases here. You should know them. So if there are any commissions that you remember, write them. Diagram again, very simple. You can draw a hub spoke diagram here as well. Like if you know 5 points related to what role does a governor play in lead up to emergency, and you have written three, just make say a hub and spoke diagram, or better make a flow chart. So if you have made hub and spoke diagram in question 1 and you want to give examiner something new, something different, then make a flow chart rather than a hub and spoke diagram. So this is it for the second question. Now, third question, it is a current based question. Earlier we dealt with static questions, now current based polity question. So the question is, the questions regarding CBI autonomy are raised time and again. Critically comment. Very important. This is the first time that I am dealing with a critically comment question in this entire session series. Second part is, what structural and institutional changes are required in CBI, if any? If any. Now, it is an open-ended question. You might say that no, there is no need for any changes. You can say there is need of change. Either way, you have to justify your view. You cannot just write the changes that are required or the statement that changes are not required. You have to justify, because this is a view based question. If you are writing a view, you need to back it with examples, back it with commissions, some report that you might know, or some court case. So again, the usage of keywords would come into play to justify your view. Now again, take a 5 to 10 second break and try to identify subparts of this question. Do not fast forward. So if you know how to deal with critically comment question, you would have identified at least two parts in the first two lines itself. So whenever you get a question to critically comment, you have to write both sides of the coin, that is positive as well as negative, or in favor of statement and against the statement. So here the statement is, the questions regarding CBI autonomy are raised time and again, critically comment. So first would become that yes, CBI is autonomous. Second, you will say that no, it is not autonomous. And you will give the examples when questions were raised regarding autonomy of CBI, and then you will give examples when it was proved that CBI is an autonomous body because of its positive function. So either way, again, you have to justify and you have to write both sides of the view. Similarly, here it is not a critically comment thing, but then, as I told you in the previous questions, look for opportunity to subdivide your question into multiple parts. So you can make this as third part, structural changes that are needed, and this as fourth part. I am sure some of you would have identified two parts. First is this and second is this. some of you who are aware of how to handle critically comment question would have identified three parts, two on two in this and first here, one here. And I believe and I hope that some of you would have identified four parts correctly. So this is, we have read, we have broken the question. We'll address each part, four parts, and it is a 15 marker question. 4 marks for each part means 4 points each. Now, even in the most current based question, you have to write the static knowledge in introduction, the facts, the reports, the commission, articles, acts, etc. So I don't remember it clearly, but it is Delhi Special Police Establishment Act or Delhi Special Establishment Act, something DSPE Act, under which CBI is functioning in India. So in the intro itself, you have to mention this act. You have to mention keywords related to CBI like caged parrot was a very famous term back then when I used to study. I'm not sure if it is famous now or not, but then you have to mention this keyword. Mention about scams like cold scam, 2G scam, in which CBI had a huge role to play in its investigation, and link with any other current issue or news background that uh, may exist or may not exist. So this much you have to do in intro. Then you will make four separate headings and write 4 points each. I have mentioned the points as well. You can go through these points later by pausing the video. As told already, it is a view-based question, and whenever you get a view-based question, you have to justify your view, whether it is asked in the question or not asked to justify. You have to justify. It might happen that UPSC explicitly mentions the keyword justify. It might happen that it does not ask, but you have to. Do not just write your view, justify them, because your view might be different from the view of examiner. So if you don't justify, if you leave it just open ended, you might lose marks. Court cases and commissions I have already told. Then diagram. So you can draw a simple flowchart like changes. So here write structural change, and here you can write institutional change, and then whatever you wrote in points you can write in one word each, in institutional and structural here. So just train your mind. I have told you four kinds of diagrams that you can draw. Just see what diagram you can draw in particular question. Fourth question, it is a governance static question. So the question is, how are citizen charters linked with transparency and governance? Do you think that citizen charter movement reached its desired ends in India? Why or why not? Justify. Now see, again it is a view based question, and here it is explicitly mentioned to justify. So in previous question it wasn't mentioned, but you did justify. Here you are already told to justify, so you won't miss it. In previous question you could have missed. So again, it is a simple question, so let us not wait to identify the parts. uh, it has three parts. These can be simply identified. Like first part is how it is uh, linked with transparency and governance. Even this you can break into two parts: how it is linked with transparency one, how it is linked with governance two, and citizen charter has met its ends three, citizen charter has not met its ends fourth. So you, in the slide I wrote three parts, but then here live recording the session I have identified four parts. So be careful while you are trying to break the question into subparts. Now I'll show you the impact of this change, this small change. When I identified three parts, I had to write 4 points each because it is a 12 marker question. Now that I have identified four parts, I would need to write one less point in each subpart. So one less point means a lot, because it might happen that you have only two quality points, and then you earlier you were making 2 points for the sake of it. Now you have to only make up 1 point. So break the question, learn the art. Gradually you will. You can always revisit these videos again and again, and I am sure you will be able to break it into subparts. So keywords in this question are citizen charter, governance, transparency. Define citizen charter in introduction. Mention the government organization that is dealing with citizen charter. I think it is DARPG. You can Google it. uh, if you are defining transparency, then you can name thinker. I told you in the introduction video that you can write name of thinkers, like Tandon is associated with transparency, so you can write Tandon in transparency. In governance, while defining governance, it is very common that people write World Bank definition of governance. So whatever is your definition, you can write that, and in front of that write as per World Bank. There is no need to write the exact definition that World Bank gave. Write what you know, and in front of that write as per World Bank. This is what counts, not what you wrote before or after it. So develop this skill as well. Here, see, I have mentioned about citizen charter, transparency, governance, mention the news background, and keywords from DPSP and ARC. So, uh, like ARC has said a lot about transparency and citizen charter. So as soon as you see a question on transparency, you should be able to recall that you read transparency word or RTI or governance in ARC index. And then, as I told you before, write whatever you want, and in front of that just write as per ARC. So now it is no more three, it is four headings, 3 points each. It is a view based question, and it has already been asked to you to justify your view. Draw the diagram. Now you can draw that paper specific diagram in this question, which I told you in the diagram slide. And conclusion, as I told before, there are two ways to write conclusion: summary or way forward. As it is asking problems related to citizen charter movement, that why or why not. So why not it reached its desired ends in India. You are mentioning problems here, so in conclusion you can give solutions as way forward approach. So it would be very good of you if you can give something extra to examiner. Nobody here has asked you solutions, but then you are giving solutions as well. So uh, I'll go to the extent of saying that when you do so, you are making a separate part altogether. So you are now no, there are no more four parts in this question, but then five parts. So because you have given solutions as well, so you will definitely score. If it was a 12 marker question, you will definitely score 6.5 in this question. Now let us discuss two sample answers from the tests that I wrote. First is a static question. It says passing of private members bill, private member bill becomes our keyword, has been a rarity in political India's political history. Compare and contrast, that is difference between government bill and private member bill. Now see, I told you types of questions like which have statement in beginning. This is the statement here, that private member bill passing is a rarity. Question asked is something different. What is the difference between government bill and private member bill? Do not straightforward jump to this. Do not skip this. As I've already told you, if you skip this, you will definitely lose marks. So you have to basically prove this statement. Just define what is private member bill. If there are any technical articles associated with it, write them and prove that it is a rarity in India's political history. Then this is the second part of question where you will differentiate. Then further discuss the issues with respect to passage. This is the third part. Along with suggesting measures to address the same, this is the fourth part. Now, if it is a 15-mark question and you have identified four subparts, then you have to write 4 points for each subpart. Remember, you have to mention keywords from ARC, DPSP, fundamental rights, fundamental duties, preamble. You have to mention articles, you have to mention court cases, you have to mention reports, you have to mention commissions. So overall, these are your paper specific keywords for GS2 Polity. When we go through this answer, you will find many of this present in my answer. So in the intro, I have defined private member bill. Private member bill rarely get passed due to obvious lack of required numbers in either house. Sorry, I have not defined private member bill. So this is a mistake on my part. Now let us analyze my mistakes as well. All have reached to that stage after reading four questions that you can identify my mistakes. No wrong in that. So mistake number one, I have not defined private member bill. I have not mentioned any technical knowledge related to it. So you can yourself see here how plain this introduction is looking. So do not repeat this mistake. Uh, then I mentioned about a news background. I don't know the year when I wrote this answer, but then that year, rights of transgender people bill was passed in Rajya Sabha, and it was a private member bill. So, as I already told, everything, almost 90-95% questions are somewhere or other linked with current affairs. A question is asked, according to me, only and only when something related to it has happened recently. So always remember to write the news background. Now, also mistake two that I have done, I have not proved that passing of private member bill is a rarity. So I have done two mistakes till now. I have not defined, I have not mentioned articles, I have not handled the statement well. So it is a 15 marker question. No matter how much good I attempt from this part, after this part, I will definitely not get 7 marks out of 15 because I have missed the statement. Now, do not repeat this mistake if you try to answer this particular question. So I have written about second part in 5 points. I've used technical words like technical knowledge like 7-day notice, 30-day notice. I mentioned about guidelines, etc. I have dealt with third part here. I have made a separate heading that is issues with passage of bill. So I have used keywords like whips and I have underlined them. Then I have mentioned measures. So here see how I have tried to use keywords like ARC, cooperative federalism. The idea of cooperative federalism is that everyone in a federalism should cooperate with each other. So the private members should be cooperated with. So I've just linked it out of the blue with ARC and cooperative federalism. Again, I have mentioned about DPSP's fundamental duties, preambles, etc. So enough keywords I have written. I have also written about shadow cabinet, and then I have concluded. So mistake number three, if you can identify in this question, is that it is missing diagram. So I've identified three mistakes as I've just plainly read my own answer. First was in introduction, second was the statement, and third is that I have not drawn diagram. So I told you before in the diagram slide that you can draw difference between diagram. So as here second part of the question asked difference between government bill and private member bill, you could have simply drawn a difference between diagram rather than writing these 5 points. So see how you can fit in diagrams if you have the mindset to fit in. So try this question. You can see my points. I've already told you the structure. It is up to you if you try it or not. So this is the last question of this video session. Transparency and accountability are important not only in state-run enterprises but also government, non-governmental organization. So here you can simply identify two parts: transparency and accountability in state-run enterprise and NGO. So one part is this, second part is this. Further suggest measures on how NGOs can be made more transparent and accountable in India. This is third part. I don't think there is need to segregate transparency and accountability here and here, uh, because if you do so, there would be many repetitions in the answer, and repetitions should be avoided. So be careful when you try to subdivide question into n number of parts. Now transparency is one keyword, accountability is keyword. Define them. I see I have made use of ARC second report. Accountability, I have defined it. So introduction per se is good. Again, I have mentioned that, drawn that diagram. So one mistake that I committed in previous question, I have rectified it here already. But then I have committed one mistake here, that I took this entire line as one part. I could have easily divided it into two parts by dealing with state-run enterprises and NGOs separately, but I dealt with them together. So this is a mistake. Uh, but then I have written keywords like citizen-centric governance from ARC. Uh, I have mentioned a report that was quite famous that year regarding NGOs. IB had brought in a report, so I mentioned that. I've again drawn one more diagram. Then I've mentioned measures. I've made a separate heading. Here I am mentioning important words like important measures that were in news that year. Now I clearly remember, I think it is a question of 2015, and similar question was also asked in mains that year. A very static and factual question was asked, that what are the recent measures taken for ensuring uh, that NGOs remain transparent in India. It was the question, and these were perhaps only at draft stage at that time, and this question was asked by UPSC. So another diagram. So I've drawn three diagrams. I've mentioned keywords. I've written intro. I've mentioned conclusion. Also, I've mentioned news background here and there, but then I did not divide it successfully into three subparts. Still, I would say that if it is a 15 marker question, I stand a chance to get 5 or 6 marks, 6 marks, not 5, because I have done most of the things right. So it is very tricky to deal with GS2 answer writing. It is very vast. You have to have specialization. You have to have the mindset to write keywords, cases, etc. Try to practice, try to implement the format that I have just told you. And if you have any queries, then you can join my Telegram channel, that is Decode Civils Group. You can read my GS2 answer copies on my blog, mudijjanblog.wordpress.com, and you can see further detailed videos on answer writing on my YouTube channel, that is Mudijjan UPSC. Also, do read my books. Ethics book is already doing well. I hope history book has been released by the time you are watching this video. So all the best, happy learning, do well.